All right, today we're going to talk about Google Earth. Now, most of us here have heard about Google Earth before, but we're going to talk about Google Earth in a different light. When Google Earth started, it was pretty much just a digital map with the locations and a little bit of information about those locations on there. Now it's turned in a powerful tool that we can use in the classroom, that we can use in multiple classrooms, not just a geography class anymore. So we're going to talk about how Google Earth works in a science class, a geography class, for history teachers, for government class and political science classes, and various other things that we as educators can use Google Earth for. I've always been a fan of maps, but Google Earth takes it to the next level. So, talking about the SAMR model first, Google Earth takes us into the redefinition phase where we're doing things that we could not do before. So, because we have Google Earth, we're going to talk about a lot of things that would have taken teachers a long time to gather all of the information together and put it together on a map and overlay it. And for a company, that would have taken a lot more time. And for one specific teacher, would have taken a lot more time. But with Google Earth, it allows you to do that and use it for free. And it integrates with Wikipedia and other software from National Geographic, PBS, and a few others that government entities that have large amounts of data that Google has taken, digitized, and now they've overlaid it on maps. And so we're going to see how that helps us as educators. So I'm going to go through how Google Earth works real quick. And it starts at the top left here. And we'll just take this down so you can see your search. It's basically what those icons are in words. And so Voyager is really where you get your start at. And so Voyager here, it has the editor's picks, some of the things they want to highlight. You have the games. I'm going to show you one game real quick that educators that teach younger children can use. Just like Dr. Frankum's research show that children have more access than they've ever had to iPads and some sort of screen in their classroom. And both my kids are 9 and 8, and they both have access to an iPad in their classroom. But this is Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? If you remember that game from maybe when you were a kid. But it's a game where basically you're trying to find Carmen Sandiego. She stole something, and so now you've got to go find her. And so Google Earth takes that game and then overlays it onto a real map. And so we'll start out here. We got our clues, and so it's going to send us down here to London. And so I like how it has basically this plain view ride down into London, and it takes us into London. So now we have a 3D. This is what I like. We've got a 3D version of London that we can play with for a sec. And so now you can see, the little egg building that they have. I can put 2 fingers down and I can get a 3D view here, so I can judge a little bit of height, width, depth, how everything goes together. I can see how the streets go together, right? I can zoom down into, whatever this building is and see the inner courtyard there. And so that's why I really like Google Earth, but we'll get on with the game here. So then it's going to take you to the Tower of London, right? So here we show up at the Tower of London. You get a little bit of history. She's going to tell you something quick, right? And then we're going to move on from that. And so we've got her. So she says something about yen. And so we remember what she said. And now it's going to take me to the Tower Bridge here. And once we get to the bridge, all right, we're going to remember what she said. The first one said something about a yen, and now she's saying something about a flag with a red circle. So now we're going to take those, and which one of these places would have yen and a flag with a red circle? Nairobi, no. St. Louis, no. Athens, no. Tokyo. So this would be for, kids my daughter's age or a little bit older when you start to get interested in geography class. And so here we go. Takes you over to Tokyo. And now we're into Tokyo. And so it's going to bring up Tokyo. Oh, there's Carmen Sandiego. We just missed her, but now here we've got a nice view of Tokyo. And now I can go in. Man, it's got an Eiffel Tower looking thing here. But you can zoom out, and now you've got a 3D view of Tokyo where you can take a look at it. We can go as deep in as we want. We can come out. And so now we're in Tokyo. And so we've learned a little bit about London. You've learned a little bit about Tokyo, and the game keeps going. And so that's why I loved Carmen Sandiego as a kid. Now they've overlaid it as a map, and now this is a dream for an educator that's like myself, because now you can teach it and kind of have fun with it. And so I really like that. And so we can go back to here. Those are one game, but they have other games where you can learn quizzes. And didn't mean to hit that, but a football quiz, and that goes from different places where football games are and all that kind of stuff. And so this is what I want to get to with the education part. Here's one of these layered maps. Now, this is what I was talking about. This would be for a geography class or a political science class, government class, class like that, or even a history class. So what comes up here is the United States congressional districts. And so we've got all these districts here. And so all the congressional districts, you see are one up there in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming. But then you can see the rest of the United States is, pretty splattered there. And so this data, like I said, third-party data comes from the boundaries from the U.S. Census and member information from the Office of the Clerk of the U.S. House of Representatives. So they take that information, they overlay it on a map, and now we can go through certain districts. And so we can go into Virginia. I'm a teacher. I'm from Virginia, so I know a little bit about it. This is the district that I'm from. And so this is District 7. Dave Bratt is my representative, and he's a Republican. Okay? And so we've got Republicans on the left side. And then on the right side by the beach and on the northern part, we have Democrats. So we can ask ourselves, why are there Democrats in the northern part of Virginia? Well, it's right next to Washington, D.C. It's a liberal area. The same thing with the beach. It is a liberal area. The eastern coast is a liberal area, so you're going to generally get, a liberal representative. And so you can talk about that, and then you can even zoom in and go into Northern Virginia and see how close it is literally to Washington, D.C., and see how close it is to Maryland, and you see these blue dots around here. And so as a teacher, you can talk about that, and not only can you talk about it, but you can see it. And so they can see why, okay, this is a very, concentrated city area, and most of that is a liberal area. And then you can move out here, and these are, woodsy, out towards the mountains, getting out towards Western Virginia, and you can see those are the more Republican conservative. And so you can draw that contrast, and go even more in depth as you want. But earlier, it would have taken a lot more work to try and get all of this information on one map, all of this information put together, and make it interactive where your students can have access to it because they've got an electronic device in class, or you have a whiteboard up there and you can, show your students everything up there. And so it also will tell you, let's get that back up here. It will also tell you the history of it. So we'll hit on learn more. And so if we're the history teacher and we want to teach about voting and how voting works, how congressional district works and how they change and all that sort of stuff, you can start here. And then this can lead you to different information. And so it gives you a little bit about it. And then if we want to read about more, we can read more. And it's going to take us, to the Census Bureau. And so it takes us to a census website. And so you can learn more about it. And so, again, more third-party information is integrated onto the site. And so it will teach you the history of it, who started it, how it's changed over time. Then it'll show you how it worked kind of in Pennsylvania, and you can literally start that and go through it. And then it'll go through some of the Supreme Court cases, and you can actually listen to the arguments, and then you can read yet again more about it. And so it doesn't just show you on the map, it shows you on the map, then it gives you the history of it, and it gives you a third-party place where you can go to get real quality information. A lot of it can come from Wikipedia, but like on here, comes from the U.S. government's website, so you know that it's legit. And that's why I like it, because as a teacher, it's hard to get a lot of this information and put it all in one place, but it's all right here and ready to go. And so you can see how not just a geography teacher could use this, but a myriad of other teachers. So you go from the navigation bar, you can get into some nature stuff, but the culture stuff, this is what comes into. It's very popular now. So you get a lot of cultural information about different parts of the world, where the Queen's gone. This Black History Month one I really like. So you're you're a history teacher. You want to teach a little bit about Black History Month. There's not a lot of information for you out there about Black History Month in general, but here it kind of just has a few highlights, where they happen, kind of some things that might be near you as a teacher that you could highlight. And like I said, it kind of just trails off. Once you hit one thing, you want to learn about another thing. And so that's why I like Google Earth in the classroom, because not only does it teaches what you're trying to teach, but then it gives the children and yourself other things that you might see interesting that you didn't think of before. And so through that, you can go through this, and that was the Black History Month one, but it also has, you can go through, and it'll take you through the Underground Railroad, and it has an overlay of that. And so it's really cool. I like that one. And so it really highlights some of the stuff we'll go through here, and you can just see, even goes through South Africa and the sports stadiums. You can see all this stuff. So you can go through culture, and then it goes over here to the education. And so we'll talk about the education. And Google Earth has what we call basically the education community. And so this Google Earth education community goes basically through what's popular, modern in today's education world. And they come up with different interactive maps to go. All right, the last thing that we're going to talk about here is Google's educational community. And basically what Google's educational community is a group of educators and that exists. And you'll see the GLOW program, you'll see the NASA Observatory, you will see PBS, you will see National Geographic. Reading is fundamental. You probably heard about reading is fundamental. And so media for math. And so basically any subject that you're going to teach, it has a map for you, and it talks a little bit about something that you might want to learn about. And so reading is fundamental. If you're a English teacher and you want to teach your kids a little bit more about different cultures, here we have some different myths and fairy tales from around the world. And so children can see them, see the places that they started, and actually get a look at it and actually read the stories too. And then you can take a look at, here we have the Google Earth education community put together. There's a lot of talk about migrations going on today. And so they put together a map about what migrations are and what's going on today in modern migrations. And so the biggest modern migrations and the issues that we've had lately, it talks about refugees. What is a refugee? Where do they come from? What's that idea? And then it talks about some of the older ones, the refugees of World War II, right? And so it takes you down in here into Germany, and you can read a little bit more. And you can, if you want to read more, it will send you here to the encyclopedia, and then it talks a little bit about the Holocaust and the survivors and what it was like. And you can see this is a scholarly paper, and this is going to lead you to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, right? And so we're here, and now you're at reputableusgovernment.org site that's going to teach you about the refugees of World War II, what it was like, where they went, all that sort of stuff. And then you can move on. It talks about Israel and Palestine. It talks about the Vietnamese boat refugees. As you can see, it's not all of them, but it goes into Afghanistan, and we've got the issue with migrant workers in China. You can read about that, or the Myanmar and the Rohingya crisis over here in Myanmar/Burma that spills over into Rangoon, and you can see it, and it takes you literally right to a camp where the people that have been expelled from their country live. And it's interesting because here we have a picture street view of a camp where these people that were taken from their country for whatever reason, where they're living right now. And so as a American student in your classroom, if you're teaching about world politics, geography, anything like that, human conflicts, you can actually take your kids and show them a picture exactly of what it looks like. Zoom in, and as you can see, I have a full panoramic view of the refugee camp. Here it is, the Action contre la Femme, but where the refugees are staying. And so you can actually get an idea and see how they're living. And I really think it's a powerful tool now for kids to have this sort of stuff because they can see it more than they normally couldn't. You can bring in a newscast and all that, but here you can see it, read a little bit more about it, and it's going to push you to more information. And so that's just one thing you can do there. We'll get out of Street View. We'll get back to the modern human migrations. But here you can see that you can go through mini maps that are overlaid like that from many different entities. So for a history teacher or geography teacher, we have Christopher Columbus there. You have Magellan there. And you have some of these other guys that started exploring through Africa, South America, and the Americas. And it goes place to place, A, B, C, where they landed, who they met, who's there now, the whole history of it. And you can learn the history of it simply just by going place to place. And so it'll start you off on the bunny trails again, where you see something, oh, I think this is interesting. Now you've gone on to that. And so that's why I really like this Google educational community, because it really shows students a little bit more interactive of what they're learning. And so you can see the map of the Americas. Students can go, okay, where did this person go? Well, what's there now? Interesting. Maybe we want to go see it. So I think that's a cool feature. And so Google Earth really has gone a lot more than just a map and, a few different places where you can read about what that's there. So the last few things I'm going to show here that I find are interesting, that you can do, and I'm going to get us some perspective here in South Dakota. So you can take this we'll go here, take this ruler, we'll get ourselves on Sioux Falls, and we'll add ourselves a point. Then we'll get ourselves to Minneapolis and add ourselves another point. And so you can see how quickly you can line up point A and point B and see how far something is from something else. It's not giving you directions, but if you just need point A to point B, and you can use this from as far zoomed in as you want. And so it's just another tool that I think is interesting. And then another interesting tool is that you can get yourself to a point, take a picture, bam, and then you can save it, send it, put it on Facebook. And so we went through some of the 3D stuff earlier, where you can have cool 3D images of this and get a cool 3D image set up. You can even type in your address and go right to your house and get a 3D image of your house, which is a little creepy, but it's there, so you can do that. But I find that interesting too, that you can just do that and get right to where you want, take a picture, save it, and send it to wherever you want to. And so the last one I'll talk about that I really love for a history, geography class is this roll of the dice here. And you hit the roll of the dice and it takes us to Apulia, Italy. And so here we have Apulia, Italy. So we got a region in Italy. And so you're a geography teacher, you say roll the dice. Wherever the dice lands, you've got to do a 1 to 2 page report about that area, something interesting about that area. So lands us in Apulia, something there is probably interesting, and that's where you do the read more, learn about it. You see some of these places around there, it's Italy, something interesting had to happen there. And so you can just see how, as a teacher, you can say, roll the dice again. And now we've got the Castillo de S. Jorge in Lisbon. And so here we got a castle. Something happened there historical for this castle to be on here. And so figure out who built this castle, a little bit of what's going on around it. You can obviously see it's an interesting landscape. And so, bam, I like this landscape. I've taken a picture of it. I've saved it to my images, and now I have it. And I like, too, how it's spinning around. And as it's spinning around, you'll notice different names disappearing and different names showing up. And so as you can see, everything's built in that Spanish way where everything has to be painted white and the roofs has to be painted orange. It's interesting, and you could do a report on that. You take a picture, well, this looks interesting. Why does everything look like this? Well, you could do a report on Spanish architecture real quick. And it's just something that, Google Earth leads you to many different things, many different rabbit trails that as educators we can use in our classrooms to spark our students' imagination. So that's really why I like Google Earth, because it sparks the students' imagination. They can see things, they can see how things work, they can see how things are overlaid on a map, and really the distances, how far, like it has the Underground Railroad. How far was that actually on the Underground Railroad that these people had to go? And you can mark it, and it shows it on there in different places, and you just really get a better idea other than just talking about it and looking at it on one of those pull down stationary maps. And so, like I said, and earlier in the beginning, this is more of a redefinition of the classroom where instead of pulling down those maps like we used to, the goofy 4 or 5 maps that were all laid up together, now you have Google Earth and you can go anywhere on Earth, get a picture of it, you can literally see it, and you can literally get everything in depth. And so I really think that it adds to the classroom. So I thank you guys very much for listening, and I hope you find a way to introduce Google Earth into your classroom. Thank you.